Hello, this is Fred from Metalops TV in France, metalop.com also. You can subscribe to the channel and please, and it's a great honor to have one guy of Gruesome, one founding member, but he has a lot of projects. Could you introduce yourself, please? What's your name and what do you do in Gruesome Band, please?
Hi, I'm Matt Harvey. I play guitar and do vocals for Gruesome, and yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Too. The band was launched in California, but in California and Florida, East Coast, West Coast in 2014. And you just released your third studio album on Relapse Records. We are going to speak about it. So it's called Silent Echoes. And I'm right in the biography, discography. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I'm the only person in California. The other three are all in Florida. Gus is in Fort Lauderdale. Dan is in Miami, and Robin
Mm.
is in Tampa.
Ah,
So
yeah.
I think
Okay.
they've covered most of the major cities there. We
Okay.
record in Orlando, so
Oh, okay. Ah,
the
no,
full
yeah.
the full
Yeah.
Florida spread.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, yeah, in Silent Echoes, it was recorded in yeah, you say Orlando, not in Tampa, Florida, like all stuff of death metal with Scott Burns or Morrison at Morrison Studio, something like that. No, Scott Morris or Scott Burns.
Yeah, more sounds in Tampa, but I think uh, they're not doing a lot of death metal there anymore. I know
Yeah,
Jim and Tom are still recording, and at one point we were talking about doing the record with Jim and Tom, just
yeah,
because that would have been a cool kind of feather in the cap. But we looked at the cost and the results. We think would have been about the same, but it would have been much more expensive. And Jarrett, who we've worked with on every album so far, we
yeah,
know him so well, and he knows us, and he knows Scott as well. He's been on our last two records. He's been conferring with
yeah.
Scott just about the various technical things and stuff. So, it turned out to be the right course of action. It worked out really well.
Yeah, okay. So yes, Jared Pritchard produced, recording, and mixed. But the mastering, who made the mastering? Scott Burns, no.
No, no, Jared did that as well. Scott doesn't really do any audio stuff anymore. He just sort of is like a
Yeah, yeah,
consultant.
retreated, retreated. Yeah, but these are still guys who produce death metal in Tampa, in Florida. I think about Eric Rutan in St. Petersburg in Florida.
Right.
He has
Eric
Mana
has
Studio.
Mana Studios down
Mana,
there.
yeah, yeah.
My other band, Exhumed, we did a record with the guy who is Eric's assistant. I can't remember I want to say Brian Elliott was his name. He
Ah,
did a
yeah.
great job. Um, you know, and Eric, I'm not sure what his status is now because I know his home was, I think, destroyed in the hurricane or
Ah,
the flood. I know
okay.
there was substantial damage. He had to go home from a cannibal
Ah,
tour. It
yeah.
was the whole thing. So yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you. So, but just I want to know your reaction and do what the feedback you have now about the Silent Echoes new stuff because was released this in June on Relapse Records. So you have already the feedback, the reaction of the press, but also the fans on internet or maybe live. You already played live some songs of new stuff. What are you satisfied with the reaction? What are the reactions about Silent Echoes?
It's been really positive. Honestly, I because this album took so long for us to make,
Yeah,
and because it is, for people that don't know, we're a death tribute band, but we
yeah.
write our own songs. It's a weird sort of niche that we find ourselves in.
That's why
But
you launched this band to make a
yeah,
tribute to Chuck Schuldiner and work the work in general of Chuck Schuldiner.
right. And so going from, the sort of spiritual healing era that we were doing on the last record into the human era
And human.
that we're tackling on this one, it was a big leap. So and it took a long time because of a lot of different factors. So I was a little bit nervous, as far as how people would receive the album. But it seems like it's been going really well, and most of the what we've heard has been really positive,
Mm,
which is
okay.
which is very encouraging.
And could we say already? Could we say maybe this new third act of Gruesome, Silent Echoes, is a more progressive stuff?
Definitely, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
you
um,
know, in as we sort of cover these different areas or these different eras of death,
yeah,
where they're a band where every album is almost like a little subgenre in and of itself.
Yeah.
We sort of absorb not just the source material from Death, but the influences around
Mm.
that album,
Yeah.
and so it was fun, just to go back and revisit stuff that I don't listen to that often, like Mahavishnu Orchestra or Chick Corea, Romantic Warrior, or Return to Forever, rather, the Romantic Warrior record. Um, John McLaughlin and Paco de Lucia and some of these old fusion guys. I know Dan was doing a deep dive on like Alan Holdsworth and Watchtower and stuff. And
Ah.
it's still very much a death metal record, but we let some of that stuff kind of come through in ways that hopefully, it gives it more dynamics, broadens the sound, and we start to explore things hopefully in a similar way that Chuck and Sean and Paul and Steve did way back in '91.
Okay, maybe because it remembers me in the Human album and maybe the end of the career of Death. Yeah, spiritual healing and do you remember the Sound of Perseverance, last Death metal album before he made Control Denied side project? But Sound of Perseverance, do you like this album and maybe there are some links with your own stuff?
Well, I think
Difficult
I'm a
to.
little torn on Sound of Perseverance because it was originally written to be a Control Denied album, and I
Yeah.
think that it would have worked better as a Control Denied record than as a Death record. And from what I understand, I wasn't there. This is all stuff that happened a long time ago. But my understanding was basically the label was like, we don't want to pay for a Control Denied album because we have to start marketing that from scratch. Whereas if we pay for a Death album, we have something that we can market and we know that we can
Yeah.
make money off it. And
Yeah.
then that will be the springboard to do the Control Denied record. And of course, I think Chuck was already deceased by the time the Control Denied record, finally
Yeah.
saw the light of day. So, it's kind of it's a complicated album because it's almost not a Death album, but
Yeah.
as we go back and do these records, you can't, you can sort of try to get in that headspace, but you can't unhear something. Obviously, we've heard Sound of Perseverance, we've heard Individual Thought Patterns, we've heard Symbolic, we've heard Control Denied.
Yeah.
And so you kind of, what you're doing is going to be informed by a little bit broader perspective than, what they were doing at the time, because obviously Chuck hadn't made those records yet
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have them as part of the thing. So it's, it's a fun way to write and to approach a project, because you have an end point in mind, and then you try to narrow your focus to get there the best way possible.
Yeah. And in a way, with Gruesome, you continue to develop the spirit, healing, the spirit of death in a way, with a touch of nostalgia in the sound, etc. But by your way, to develop the
Yeah,
spirit,
I mean,
to continue to the heritage to the young people, young generation.
right. I mean, because there is a whole generation of metal fans, maybe multiple generations at this point, that discovered Death after Chuck was already gone,
Of
or
course.
never got to see Death, and you can see by the people that are coming out to see Death to All, or the people that are coming out to see Gus and I
Yeah.
play
Yeah. Yeah.
with Rick and Terry and Left to Die. And you know we sort of make these weird companion pieces to these classic albums. And
Yeah.
the fact that we were able to find a market for it, really, when we started the band, I didn't think that there would be a market for it. I thought it was just a sort of strange kind of passion project. But obviously, because Chuck is no longer with us, I think that there's always that curiosity. What would he have done? Like, why? He was so young when he passed away that really
Yeah.
you would have
30.
thought that he would have had a lot more to give.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't remember exactly how old he had when he died, but yeah, it was too young. Of course. And personally, have you already met him in the past and so live death maybe at the end in symbolic
I saw
live
Death
shows?
many times. Yeah, I saw him twice on Spiritual Healing, and then I saw him
Okay.
I want to say twice more before they kind of split up after Symbolic.
Ah,
And then
yeah.
I did see them on the Sound of Perseverance tour. My girlfriend at the time wanted to see Hammerfall, and they were touring with Death.
Okay.
So we went and we saw Hammerfall, and we saw Death. And you know,
Okay.
I think I had no idea that that would be the last time that I would see
Yeah, of
Death,
course. Yeah.
or I would have maybe paid a little bit more attention. It was just another gig, which is kind of wild. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and I met. I didn't know Chuck at all, but I did meet him back in 1990 when I was
Yeah.
14. Um,
Okay. Okay. Personally, I
and
never saw him live, but Death Tool, yes, with you maybe. You play live in Death Tool.
oh, right, right, yeah. Um,
It was awesome. It was awesome.
it's yeah, I mean it's kind of wild to because I'm just a fan. I don't have any. I mean, I do now, but when we started doing this, or when I did that first Death to All run, those 10 shows I did with them or whatever, um, I didn't really have any direct connection to the material other than just being a big fan and somebody that had studied, the early records really closely. And so to kind of write your way into the legacy of this band is just really surreal. And, I'm constantly humbled and surprised by it.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here, and I'm trying to do right by the legacy of
Mm.
Death, and kind of live up to the challenge, because that's what Chuck's career is all about. It's all about challenging yourself. It's
Yeah.
like, cool, I did that. Now what's next? What am I
Yeah.
going to do next? And
Yeah.
to sort of follow that trail that he blazed, that's challenging in and of itself.
Last a few months, 1 month ago, I talked with Stevie Giorgio for Quadvium new project, side project with Yerwan Paul Tesling. Quadvium, progressive metal project, by Stevie Giorgio on bass. And
Okay.
I asked him about a new tour of Death DTA, and he told me that, yeah, that this summer there is a new, yeah, this summer, a new tour of Death D tour,
Okay.
live touring in America and maybe South of America, something like that, coming. With
Yeah,
you?
those guys
Or
are always
no,
they're always doing stuff. They're always out kicking ass. I
yeah,
love seeing them. They do such a great job of it. And you know,
but
anytime you get to see Bobby Coble play guitar, you should
yeah, oh, yeah,
get
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah,
Guys are
yeah.
great.
Yeah. But you don't make part of this project now nowadays. You can't
No, no, I just did
live, live.
the
Yeah,
very first few shows
yeah,
with DTA.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then as time went on through just
yeah. You can't.
more random circumstances, Gus, our drummer, and I now have ended up playing with Rick Ross and Terry Butler in Left
Yeah,
to Die. And we played just the first two records, the stuff that Rick and
yeah.
Terry were directly involved in.
Okay.
And that's been super fun. And we were in France last year.
Yeah.
We were in the south of France last year. We did Paris on the first tour, and then we did
Okay.
I want to say maybe Marseille and someplace else.
Okay.
We played with Merciless, which was great because I'd never seen them. One of the classic French death metal bands, and they sounded great. They were killing it. And we played with Aggressor actually at the other French show.
Aggressor, Alex. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
now we just got to
Legend.
play with Massacre, and then we'll have the trifecta of the classic French death metal and Loud
Yeah,
Blast. I guess we need them too. So those are the
yeah.
two that I'm waiting for next time.
Okay, okay, good, good. Yeah, Alex, you say hello to him and to her sister. Her
Oh yeah.
sister plays in Witches. Awesome, yeah, old school speed black metal. They are back. Witches with
Okay.
her sister of Alex, guitarist. Okay, let's speak more about Echoes part, because there are several parts on YouTube about the music videos and some footage of of this album, Silent Echoes. Tell me more about what we can find. I will put the links at the end of the interview in the description about Silent Echoes. There are different parts we can see watched on YouTube. It's playthroughs. It's during the recording studio.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we Jarrett was very foresightful while we were recording. He I forget exactly why he had the video equipment in the first place, but he's like, yeah, we should be documenting this stuff. And I have this really good video equipment.
Okay.
And so, we did some interview footage while we were tracking the record. So there's footage of us tracking the record. And then after the fact, Jarrett and Gus and Scott Burns, and then Sean Reinert's sister, Patty, because Sean's snare is the snare that you hear on the album. And Sean was originally going to be involved in doing the record, and he had done a track with us a few years ago. And so, he was going to be very involved with the album before he also died. Um,
Okay.
so they talk a lot about it, and it's all on the Relapse YouTube channel. We did a
Yeah.
video for the first single, A Darkened Window,
Yeah.
and then we did a playthrough for, I forget which track it was now. That was something
Um,
that the label put together. But the Darkened Window video I really liked a lot. I think, the concept was really strong, and the visuals were really strong, and kind of conveying,
right. Very
in a way
interesting.
what the lyrics are about. But it's very open to interpretation, which I like as well.
Okay, I will put the links of equals parts of these different music videos of
Awesome.
Gruesome. The last track of the album is called Reason. There are 8 tracks. The last track is called Reason Denied. Is it a
Uh-huh.
wink? A wink to Control Denied? Oh, at the end.
um,
And at the end.
well,
Anyway.
I mean, obviously, I want our song titles and the lyrics to not be too far from something that Chuck
Yeah.
might have done, and it just kind of rolled off the tongue, and it fit with the music. I mean, I never really write the lyrics until we have the song, and then I sort of see what
Okay.
goes with the cadence of the song. And yeah,
Okay.
it's just about sort of the pretzel logic that people use to sort of live by their ideology. And so, yeah,
Ah, yeah.
when you try to talk to them and then they just keep going on in circles, like a snake eating its tail instead of actually like, engaging with people. So, yeah, the reason denied seemed to make sense. And it just rolled off the tongue. It sounded like something that Chuck would say.
Okay. Okay. Every track, I think we have to listen every track very several times because there are some touch, your vocals, the riffs, your approach. The sound, the drum parts are awesome. And yeah, maybe it's more progressive stuff. I think we need to listen more and more. Maybe the 2 first albums, Savage Land and Twisted Prayer, were more direct. Maybe the new one is more
Yeah.
subtle. I don't understand.
I kind of feel like the first records, the first, 2.5, whatever you want to call it, Dimensions of Horror. I think
Yeah,
of it as a record. I guess it's an EP, but whatever. Those records are kind of more like you can put on and have a couple beers and just kind of listen to the record straight through.
yeah,
Whereas this album, I feel like it's better to listen to a song and then take that as its own kind of
yeah,
thing. And then the next song is its own kind of thing rather than the record being its own thing and the songs being part of the record. This is more each song kind of demands your attention
yeah,
separately from the
yeah,
others.
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
not to say one's better than the other, but it's just a different kind of,
Uh,
it's a different approach to the
Approach, yeah.
songwriting and,
Yeah, more subtle. I don't know if you understand subtle,
subtle. Yeah, yeah.
subtle. Did are some songs that were very difficult for you to perform, and for the recording studio, you and with your colleague, or but you especially on guitars and or vocals?
Well, luckily for me, Dan, our other guitar player, he records all of the rhythms. But when we were together rehearsing the songs, it definitely, when we were writing the earlier albums, we would get together and play, and within like a couple rehearsals, we're good to go. This one took a few days before the songs really felt comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
And it definitely came together, but the first couple of times it's like, fuck this part. Hold on, go back, do it again. How does it go? Oh yeah, okay.
Okay.
Um, and then after playing through the songs for a few days, then it
Yeah,
started to feel very natural. But it is more technically demanding. It is more challenging, which makes it, you know, I don't know if it's actually harder to write because sometimes filling up space with more notes doesn't is
yeah,
actually easier than writing something really simple and
yeah,
open, because I feel like you can kind of get away with some stuff when it's really busy that just kind of flies by the listener, and the busyness is its own thing. But when you have a really simple riff that's only 3 or 4 notes, you can't have every note really counts, you know. So I don't know if it's harder to compose, but it is harder to execute and harder to
yeah,
play.
yeah,
um, but it's not about being technical for the sake of technicality. We're not trying to show off or be gymnastic or just look at this trick.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
very much rooted in writing songs. These songs just happen to be a little bit harder to play than the ones we've done
yeah, yeah.
before.
Okay. And you have already played live new stuff
No, we
in
are
California
we're,
or in America?
we're very close to announcing our first
Oh,
run of North American shows. We have
okay,
a couple other things in the works. Whether it's going to be Europe or the States is still a little up in the air, but we're going to be announcing stuff very soon.
okay.
And yeah, we're really excited to get out and do this stuff live, because I
Oh,
do think I'm excited because it is going to be it is going to be a challenge. And that's
yeah,
part of
yeah.
what I think what's what makes it interesting for me is to get out there and like really execute it at a high level and do the material justice.
Okay, I think I already saw you live a few years ago in festivals. I don't remember Hellfest or Motoculture in France. A few years
We
ago,
did
before the phone.
motoculture for sure. We
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, oh yeah.
We
I
haven't
was,
done Hellfest
yeah,
yet. We did Vakken, but
yeah.
we
Ah,
haven't
no.
done Hellfest.
Okay, okay. And do you, according to you, Gruesome? Shall we say about Gruesome? Shall we say you are an old school band, but who plays contemporary death metal, progressive death metal, or you are a new contemporary band who plays old school death metal?
uh,
Both,
hmm.
because
I don't know. I mean,
you have an approach, old school approach, but with a bit nostalgic, but technically with a new. I don't know what you are. Do you work in studio? You
I mean, I
you
think
jam and
at this point I'm almost 50, so I think everything I do is old school
yeah,
because I'm just old. I can't help it. You
yeah,
know, so
yeah.
I think
Exhumed,
we're
exhumed.
an old school
Yeah,
band, and I think even the idea of what we're doing as being progressive is maybe the old school way of being
yeah,
progressive. Now, when I think of like progressive death metal now, maybe it's like the Pleiades Sands EP by Gorguts, or maybe
ah, yeah, ah, yeah,
something like
right,
Portal or something like that. Where it's more about these kind of almost like
yeah,
12 tone texture kind of things, rather than these more melodic and rhythmically challenging
okay,
things that we're doing. But which is great though, because you wouldn't want the genre has to evolve
yeah,
in order
yeah,
to
yeah.
stay vital. So it's good that it keeps going in different directions and people keep
But
finding new stuff to do with it. But we're just old, so we just do it the old way.
But do you jam together if the rest of the band live in West East Coast, Florida, Robin or Dan, and you West Coast, you don't rehearse together, you don't jam in your rehearsal room often?
We only really rehearse before we play live.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, this album is the first album that we actually rehearsed
Yeah.
for, because
Okay.
everything else,
Yeah.
because the music was a bit simpler,
Yeah.
we were able to just put it all together remotely. We still kind of put a lot of the material together remotely, but we finished everything in the jam room. And excuse me, we realized, going forward as the songs continue to be more progressive and more elaborate, that we're going to have to be
Mm.
rehearsing more and doing more work in person, which honestly I look forward to, because one of the things I miss the most about doing this, back in the 90s when I was a teenager and stuff, is just getting together in the room
And
3 or 4 nights a week. But of course, once everybody is older and people move,
yeah.
I moved. I live 3.5 hours away from where I grew up, where I used to have all my bands as a kid. But you move and you get married and people have kids and then you got pets, and then
I don't have
everybody has
time.
different projects that they're involved in, be
Ah,
they jobs or other bands or whatever. The idea that you're going to get together 3 days a week and just jam, that's just not
Holidays.
And it's
Yeah,
also like, you know, if you've been doing this for 20 years, you should not need to. But
yeah,
I think when you're writing, you know, the process benefits from it. And I think we saw that with this record, and it was really fun. And so I look forward to doing that going forward, you know, just at least in terms of the writing process. And certainly, you know, getting ready for tours is going to take a little bit more time because the material is more involved, you
yeah.
know.
Okay. A few words about the Travis Smith artwork. I think it's Travis Smith who made it. Travis Smith,
Oh,
the
Travis Smith.
artwork.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's very nice and yes, with a death. It could be a death cover artwork.
Yeah, no, we were looking at I cannot remember this. He's got a French last name, Rene something, the guy that did the art for Human. We
Ah,
we were trying to get him to do it. I found him on Instagram. I reached out to him. I did a little bit more internet stalking, gave the label his contact, and I guess he finally got back to them. He doesn't do art anymore. I forget. He's doing something with either boats or real estate or something in the Florida Keys. But luckily, Travis Smith, that did the Sound of Perseverance cover, which is a great cover,
yeah,
is
with
very
the
much involved in
yeah,
artwork still.
yeah.
And reaching out to him is really easy, and working with him was a fucking pleasure.
Mm.
He's the first cover artist I've ever worked with that had so many ideas that I was like, dude, you have to stop sending me stuff, because I was already like couldn't make up my mind between four of these, and then you're sending me three or four more variations that are all killer.
Okay.
And you know, we talked about the concept, and we talked about the lyrics and the kind of vibe and the color scheme, and he just fucking took the ball and ran with it. And I couldn't be happier with the cover. And I think,
He already had the music to paint it before to paint
um,
it or
yeah,
after.
we at least had demos that
Okay.
we could send him, so he, you know, he grasped what we were doing, and he was already aware of the band, which was also helpful.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Okay.
we were really, really, really pleased with what he came up with, and I think that um, you know, it shows that the music has changed and the music is different and that the direction's different. You know, everything from the logo to the artwork to the typeface to everything, you know, kind of shows, hey, we're doing a thing, you know, we're doing this thing now, which is
Oh,
really cool.
oh, nice artwork, very nice artwork, and it fits very well, yeah, with the spirit of the music. Okay, very last words. What are the news about all your side projects, but the main side project about Cold Slither, most heavy metal stuff, or joke about Cobra and G.I. Joe when I play when I was a kid? And if I'm right, it's another label on War. There is a new album coming out about Cold Slither. And what's the news about Exhumed? Because To the Dead was released in 2022 on Relapse Records. So
Yeah.
tell
Um,
me, tell me.
well, I'll do Exhumed first because it's more straightforward.
Yeah. And on
With
Relapse
Exhumed, we
Records.
are just about wrapped up with a new record
Ah,
that
cool.
will be out probably early next year.
Okay.
Um, we
Ah,
recorded a ton of songs,
okay.
and you know, we're having a great time with the material. We're just about ready to start with the mixing process, and
Okay, cool.
and then
We
we'll be
love
back on
Exhumed.
the road. We kind of decided to take this year off with Exhumed because
Okay. Yeah.
you know, we'd done a lot of American tours. We
Yeah.
did Australia, we did Japan, we did, you know, we were all over the place. And we did
Okay.
Latin American tour for the last album as well. So we're like, let's
Oh,
take a break because we play a lot in the same territories, and let's wait till we have a new album. We'll come back, we'll be refreshed. People will be excited to see us. We'll have a whole new thing. It'll be a whole new cycle. And you know, it also gives us all time to focus on doing other projects that we're involved in and stuff as well. So that's what's going on with Exhumed.
okay.
Cold Slither is something that um, Hasbro, the company that you know makes
Yeah,
GI
the
Joe
toys.
toys,
Yeah, the toys.
they
Trademark.
came to Raining Phoenix, and they were like, "We're going to do these Cold Slither toys, and we need a heavy metal band to make this record." So Raining Phoenix,
But the music for a video for a movie or no no
it's just for selling toys.
on
Um,
with advertisement with your music on TV
yeah,
on internet.
yeah. So, well, I don't know about TV, but um, basically, Gerardo at Raining Phoenix is a huge GI Joe fan, and he
Okay.
used to run Nuclear Blast USA, so he's
Ah,
more
okay.
tied into the sort of corporate rock
Yeah.
level of things. and he had worked with Gus before on a project with Liquid Death. Um,
Ah, yeah,
and so, and Gus is also a huge GI Joe freak. So Gerardo hit up Gus, and of course, Gus was like, "Holy shit, we're gonna do a GI Joe thing." And Gus and I worked together a lot. We worked together well. So he brought me in, and then I brought in Ross from Exhumed because he is also a fucking huge GI Joe freak. I'm more of a Marvel DC
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
That's my thing. Like I love all the old school Marvel superhero stuff. But
Okay.
I liked GI Joe a lot as a kid, and I
Yeah.
was very familiar with Cold Slither and who the Dreadnoks were, and all this stuff. And when Exhumed goes on tour, Ross and I, when we have time, all we do is we go to the comic store, we go to the toy store. We're always looking for you know old
Okay.
action figures and comics and stuff. So it was a real easy fit. So Gus basically kind of put the band together and then spearheaded the writing process for the album. And we are doing our first gig at San Diego Comic Con
Ah,
at the end of
okay.
July. So to launch
Okay.
the action figures and the record, and it's a whole thing. That's actually why I had this
The
beard, is because
Cobra. Yeah.
Ripper from the Dreadnoks has a beard. Normally, I don't let it go this long. So
Okay, okay, okay. We will. I think we will talk about Cold Slither. There's a single. It's an eponym album, if I'm right, called Slither. And yeah, the
yeah,
cover with Marshall amplifiers and
yeah, it's
crocodile
really
and
cool.
cobra. Okay, I have the toys. Huh? I somewhere I have the toys in my house, old house of my parents, and yeah, I have all the toys and cobra. I
It's
remember I
great.
have several because you can pay with some when you collect some points. You can at this time you with postal I post and I have you can buy with small price cobra the figurines. So I have five cobras,
That rules.
but
Yeah.
some are broken.
Well, I mean, that's good. You play with them, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't have any of my old GI Joes, but
but
I had a few. I had a lot of Star Wars figures,
yeah,
and then
but
some GI Joes, some Transformers, and
yeah.
then the
Yeah,
Secret
yeah,
Wars
yeah, Transformers.
Powers toys
And
because they're
Skeletor also of Universe, Skeletor's Master, Adam, as
yeah, Prince Adam and He-Man and all
yeah,
those guys and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Buzz-Off
exactly.
and
Yeah, yeah, all that
Painting
stuff. Okay,
Faces.
okay.
Yeah,
But the movie, honestly, the movies of G.I. Joe, it was a yeah Hollywood blockbuster, but honestly, I didn't find the. I prefer the small cartoons on TV.
I like the cartoon movie that they
But
did back in
yeah,
the '80s with Burgess
yeah,
Meredith and Globulus and Cobra, la
right.
la 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 la, and I thought that was really cool. It's not as good as the Transformers movie. I love that movie, and I
And
love the
what
soundtrack for it.
and what's
So
your nickname in Code Slither? What's your nickname? Because you
I'm
have
Ripper.
all
Ripper.
Reaper. What's I don't remember the way. Yeah, because there was Zartan. There is
There's
Zart.
Zartan. There's Torch. There's Ripper, and there's Buzzsaw.
Okay, okay, okay,
So yeah,
okay. All right, so we are all teenagers. We are all still all kids in our mind. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, but I thank you very much. We will talk maybe again about Cold Caesar, but we will make the album review and maybe an interview. But thank you very much. Gruesome new album, a lot of stuff. Wait and see for Exhumed. Okay, no problem. But Gruesome, it's out now on Relapse Records and very good album, third album, and yeah, congratulations, Silent Echoes now available. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Matt. Take care and see you live in France, I hope, one day
Definitely.
again.
All
Bye.
right, man.
Bye.
Thank you.